Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you tonight about attitudes and driving. I've kind of avoided this topic, but tonight we're going to take it on and we're going to talk to you a little bit about attitudes and how that can shape your outlook on driving and how that can keep you safe. So just before we start here, just be sure to let us know here in the comments where you are tuning in from, where you are in the world, and we'll give you a shout out. Colin is here, Travel and Gaming is here, and he says, I'm back after a week of being gone, so I'm glad that Colin could come back and join us. Carol is here as well, and I too have been away most of the summer. I have been keeping up with the live streams and those types of things, and last week the live stream was on Wednesday because I was away for the annual trek to Ontario to visit my folks there. So Tim, my good friend Tim with Basic Joomla Tutorials, who last week turned over 1,000 subscribers, which is, some of you may or may not know, for YouTube is the minimum bar for them to start advertising on your channel. And again, congratulations to Tim for that. And if you need a website as well, Basic Joomla Tutorials. And Tim has also been looking after the Smart Drive Test website, where we've launched the 100K campaign to help 100,000 drivers in the next calendar year earn their license. And every driver that goes over there and registers and tells us that he or she has been successful on his or her road test will also go into a draw for a monthly $100 gas card. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I forgot to mention that the last couple of times I've mentioned the 100K campaign. So we'll get that there as well. So workout 8. Hi everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. Yes, we are, and hope you as well. Mike is from Atlanta, Georgia. Colin is from Calgary. Carol is from Vancouver. Biggity Boys is in Nanaimo, and Gabriella is in Missouri in the US of A, which is a great place to visit if you get a chance to get there. Tavoris, where are you dialing in from there? And NW Elevators is here as well. And how's everybody doing this evening? So we're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to answer any of your questions about passing a road test, any class of license, motorcycle, passenger vehicle, trucks, buses, air brakes. I can answer all of those questions about driving. And yes, I got a little eye here with my that's a bit red. Yeah, I broke a blood vessel in my eye. It hasn't affected my vision or anything, but it's good here. So JFSA 380, and Erica is from Boston, Massachusetts, where it is 9 p.m. on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. Excuse me, in New England. Karakaya is from Seattle, and that's really great. Yeah, and thank you so much, Colin, for the live stream on emergency vehicles, and we're going to move that forward too. And again, Tori Crook, down under. Dory, where are you down under? Are you in New Zealand or are you in Australia? Because I think New Zealand's considered down under as well. Most of the time, though, it's Australia. I suspect it's Australia. Okay, Dorcas, DFW, Texas. So we got people all over North America. We've got people down under, so we've got people who it is tomorrow. So, Tori, how does our future look here? Fresco, California, Jose, and Tavoris from the U.S. Excellent. So we got lots of people tuning in tonight. And, yeah, it's been really good. And Bricks for Wheels, Corey's here. I have to say that's the first time Corey's been late, which I really wouldn't say 3 minutes is late, Corey. You're actually on time. So, Tori, you're from Brisbane. That's awesome. Thanks very much for tuning in. What time tomorrow is it there in Australia, Tori? So, Erica, I'm actually going for my road test next week. Awesome. So, good luck on your road test next week. Yeah, and if you've had a road test in the last week, congratulations on passing. If you were successful, if you weren't successful, you'll definitely get it the next time. And anybody who's got a road test coming up in the next week, good luck on that. And if you have any questions at all, by all means, drop us a note here, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with any questions that you have. I do try really hard to answer all the questions, all the comments every day, and answer any questions that smart drivers may have. So, Tori, so it's sunny in Brisbane. What a lovely place. And it's 11 p.m. So that's pretty late for you, Tori, but thanks for tuning in. 11, typo there. So it's 11 in the morning in Brisbane, so that's great. How do you make a solid turn? Tavoris, when you're talking solid turn, what are you referring to? Are you talking about a right turn, left turn? Just answer that question. All right, so tonight we're talking about attitudes that shape our perspective of driving, and the reason that I'm talking about attitudes and the reason that I'm tackling that is due to the fact that a lot of drivers are participating in social driving. And if you followed any of the videos on my channel or followed any of the live streams here, I talk a lot about social driving and the activity of social driving. And we know as driving instructors that once drivers get their license, they begin to sort of follow the herd mentality, so to speak, for lack of better explanation, of social driving. They follow too close, they don't stop at stop signs, they don't signal correctly, they don't give advance notice, and there's all kinds of problems associated with social driving, and it's part of what we do in driving. But it doesn't keep you safe, and it certainly will not allow you to pass a road test, because you have to have an attitude where you manage space around your vehicle, you manage your speed well, and you observe and you communicate. Those are the 4 fundamentals of any road test. So you have to do all of that. So I'm just going to go back and answer Tavoris's question here. 3-point turns are so hard. That's what I'm scared for. Okay, Erica. Corey will get the video up for you on 3-point turns if you haven't seen it already. 3-point turns are actually not as difficult as you might think, Erica. And I will say to you, just keep in mind that driving instructors are not going to make you do 3-point turns on busy roads. They're going to take you to a less dense area, and they're going to get you to do a 3-point turn on a residential area. And most of the time, these driving centers and the examiners have a place where they take you to do that. So no, don't be too daunted by that, okay? Excuse me. Janet's here, tuning in from Ontario. And Tavoris, you wanted to know about a right turn. Okay, so right turns, Tavoris, are fairly simple. As you're coming up approximately half a block from the turn, you want to shoulder check. Make sure that there aren't any bicycles or other road users in your blind area on that side of the vehicle. You come up, you signal about half a block as well. So mirror signal, shoulder check. Before you start slowing down, check the center mirror to make sure that vehicles behind you are actually coming to a stop and you're not going to get rear-ended. If it is a red light, you're going to have to come to a complete stop at the correct position before the stop line, before the sidewalk, or where the 2 roads meet. Come to a complete stop if you have to. If it's green, you can simply slow, scan the intersection, and then proceed. Look in the direction you want to go. Shoulder check again before you make the turn. Immediately before you turn the steering wheel, and then go around the corner. Look in the direction you want to travel, and then accelerate and get back up to speed as quickly as possible. So that's how you do a right turn. And as well, there's videos here, and Corey will get you the playlist on right turns, so that'll be good as well. Okay, so actually saw a T-bone accident today where a car ran a red and another was distracted. Yeah, Colin, those are pretty dangerous, okay? So Tim G, hey, I got my permit now. I am working on taking to get it to the next level and keeping the positive attitude. That's really great, Tim. We're really glad that's working out for you. Hamadaze, I hope I said that all right for you. Hello, and if you have any questions, by all means, ask me questions. And so there's the video set for the 3-point turn. There's also, if you look in that playlist, Erica, you'll also find all of the slow speed maneuvers that you have to do. 2-point reverse turn, 3-point turn, the parallel parking, all of the slow speed maneuvers that you are required to do for the purposes of a road test. Maria, what's the better tips to control the fear? Maria, the 4 most powerful words in the English language. I can do this. You can drive. And then the other thing to do, tips that I would suggest to reduce your fear and anxiety when you're learning how to drive. Drive in controlled areas first. And Corey will put the video up for you on how to learn to drive. And that will put you in a parking lot with pylons. And that way you can get used to the primary controls and get good control of those, so that you can manipulate them well and work the steering wheel with the throttle and the brake and those types of things, and then start to drive in low density areas. Don't just go out into busy areas, because that will really elevate your fear and anxiety. But work in low traffic density areas, and then move up as your skills improve. That's probably the best way to do that. Gould, I love your advice. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We appreciate that we can help out. It's really great. Mohammed, I will have my CDL exam on the 19th. What to look for the first 6 months to get as much learning experience. And yes, that's what you want to do, Mohammed. Mohammed, I'm just asking, are you going for a tractor trailer license? Is that what you're doing? Because if you are, that's really great. 380, call me crazy, but I've gotten so used to not having a center mirror on my work truck and emergency vehicles that I've gotten on well without it in my personal vehicle. Personally, don't see the use. Yeah, 380, I would tend to agree with you, and it's not crazy because I don't use the center mirror very much. That's because of my years of driving truck and bus. I tend to use the wing mirrors a lot more, but it is advantageous, and we try to use as much all the tools we have available to us when we're driving. So if you have a center mirror, yes, you can do that as well. Sebastian's here. Hello, Sebastian. Colin, I'm going on a ride along with Calgary Police next week, so that will be fun. That sounds like great fun, Colin, so definitely let us know how that goes. Arlene, taking my road test again in October. What can I do to focus and relax so I won't fail again? Help Arlene there in New Jersey. So that's really great that you're... So essentially, Arlene, you reflect on what happened in the first test, improve those skills. And the other thing I would do, Arlene, is if it's in October, what I would suggest you is to book a practice driving test with a local driving school right now. That way, when you get close to your test day, in the 3 or 4 days before your test day, you can go out with a driving instructor. They will do a practice driving test with you, and that way they will assess your skills, and they will tell you if you're ready for your test or there's anything that needs to be improved. The money that you spend on a practice driving test is the best money that you can spend. And Sam, who often drops in, is with Rookie Auto Driving School there in the Bronx in New York, and he says that the practice driving tests are about $20, and it's the best money you can spend. So that's what I would suggest to you, Arlene, is to book a practice driving test just before you go for your road test. Okay, so what's your advice on getting multiple point inspection due to the fact that I'm not aware what parts need to be replaced on the car, and then I realized the steering wheel? Sebastian, yeah, definitely what Colin said there. Definitely take the vehicle to a mechanic and get a mechanic to do an inspection, because mechanics will pull the wheels off, they'll check the brakes, they'll check other components, they'll put it up on a hoist, they'll check everything underneath the vehicle, the fuel lines, exhausts, and shocks, all the things on the vehicle that need to be checked. So if any of you are buying a secondhand vehicle, take it to a mechanic and get a mechanic to do an inspection. It'll cost you about $100, and it's the best $100 that you'll spend. Even if the mechanic doesn't find anything wrong with the vehicle, take it to a mechanic. If you're buying a vehicle, say to the person that you're buying it from, whether it's a dealership or whether it's privately, say, listen, I want to take it to a mechanic, I want to get it inspected, and do that, and then that's going to be good value for your money. Edgar's here. How are you, Edgar? Carol, in Class 7 test, do they make you parallel park on a busy road, or will they get you to park on a side road? Most of the time, Carol, when they're getting you to do slow speed maneuvers, whether that's parallel parking, 3-point turn, they will get you to do that in a low traffic density area. They'll take you to some place doesn't have a lot of traffic. Okay, I can't say that as a blanket statement, but sometimes that's often what happens. Okay, so most of the time you're going to be in a residential area. Someone has a new license, can they get a job before going on training? Just a minute here. Okay, now Gould, are you going for CDL license? Is that what you're doing, or is it some other type of work? Ryan is here. Hello, Ryan. Thanks for tuning in. And Ryan is from Ontario, and I believe you're in the Cambridge area. Are you, Ryan? I believe that's okay. Penny, please explain what is in potential hazards. Okay, so Penny, in terms of driving hazards and potential hazards that you're going to encounter on the roadway, you simply need to look farther down the road. And hazard perception is an acquired skill. In other words, it's a learned skill. It's something that you need to practice driving a vehicle, and oftentimes you need to practice with veteran drivers who can identify what hazards and what hazards are, and those things that could potentially harm you in the environment. Essentially, any road user on the roadway who could potentially step into your path of travel is going to be a hazard. So for example, if you're driving along the roadway and you're at an intersection or there's a crosswalk and there are pedestrians there in and around that area, and they're waiting to cross, that could potentially be a hazard on the roadway. That is something that you need to interpret as a hazard, and you may have to cover the brake because that person could potentially move into your path of travel. Another example of hazard perception is bicycles in bicycle lanes. If the person is weaving in the bicycle lane and you see that person, you go, haha, that's a hazard, because that person could potentially deviate into your path of travel. So hazard perception is simply identifying road users that could potentially move into your path of travel when you're driving along. So that's what you need to do in terms of hazard perception. So I was right in terms of Ryan. He is in Cambridge there. So that will help you a little bit. The other thing, Penny, is that you need to be aware of your own skills when you're driving, because if you're going too fast or you're driving beyond your own capabilities of the vehicle, you could potentially strike a fixed object, or you could back into a fixed object, or those types of things if you're not observing correctly, or you don't have good speed or space management of your vehicle. So those are the things that that could potentially cause hazards. Now, and the other thing, going back to last week's live stream and the topic we were talking about last week in terms of obstructions on the roadway, if you're driving along the roadway and, for example, there's a transit bus, and the transit bus is in a pullout area where they're letting off passengers, and they've been there for a while, so you're back a couple of blocks, you saw the bus pull into the pullout, you saw passengers get off the bus, and you're moving up on the bus, and you're about a half a block away now. Now you know that there's enough time that's elapsed that bus is probably going to put the signal on, the driver's going to put the signal on, and the driver's going to move back out into your lane of travel. So you're going to preempt that because you know that's potentially a hazard, because that bus is going to come back into your lane. What you're going to do is you're simply going to change lanes, and then you're going to move around the bus. So that's hazard perception. Or another example of a transit bus is if you're on a 2-lane road and the bus just pulls over to the curb. If you pull out to pass that bus, you could potentially encounter oncoming traffic that you could potentially collide with. So that's something else that it could potentially be a hazard that you're going to deal with on the roadway. Michael, different places, different prices. Where I'm at, the practice test is the same as an actual road test. And Michael, how much is that for you? So, but also the other thing you got to think of, Michael, is if you take a practice test that's the same price as a driving test, it's actually not the same price as a driving test, because if you take the practice driving test, and you have a much higher chance of passing your road test, and it's less likely you're going to be unsuccessful. Whereas if you just go and take a driving test and you fail, then you have to take another test. So now you're twice the cost. So say, for example, that the practice driving test is $50 and the driving test is $50. If you fail, you still spend $100. So either way, you're going to spend $100. So and not only that, when you're unsuccessful on a road test, one of the other things that you have to do with students is you have to rebuild their confidence. And rebuilding their confidence, rebuilding students' confidence after they've been unsuccessful on a road test takes time. And it takes time to recover from that. So I always suggest that it's better that you go in and have a high chance of success than go in or not successful, because it takes a lot of time to recover from being unsuccessful on a road test. There are some people who can go in and do driving tests, and they can do driving test after driving test after driving test, and they simply see it as a driving lesson. But a lot of people are not like that. A lot of people are going to take a hit, and it's going to take a while to get back to them on that. Tori, sorry, I feel I've been answered, but I have been moving around. Okay, sorry, Tori. Okay, so I find manual easy until I have a vehicle behind me at the lights. How do I gain better control of the situation? Tori, it's difficult, but when you're driving a manual transmission and there's a vehicle behind you, essentially what you need to do is you need to focus on what you're doing, which is pretty tough sometimes, especially when you're driving a manual. It can be fairly intimidating when there's other people behind you. So focus on what you're doing. And again, that's an excellent point that Tori made. If you have a question here, I've got a lot of people on the live feed. If you don't get your question answered, it's not because I ignored you. Simply ask your question again, and I'll try my best to answer it. If I don't get to it, leave me a comment in one of the other videos, and I'll be sure to get to it for you, okay? Or send me an email at rick@smartdrivetest.com, and I'll be sure to answer your question for you, okay? Because I like to try and get everybody answered here. Okay, so Michael paid $60. Sebastian, I needed to hear that. Rick, I backed into someone's mailbox. Thank God it didn't crack, but my spoiler came off and had to put it back on. Oh, okay, I see. So you're concerned a little bit about integral damage to your vehicle there, Sebastian. Yeah, I can see that. Hassan, good evening. My test is in a couple of days, and I am confident, just worried about critical errors that will cause fails. Any tips? Essentially, Hassan, just speed management, space management, observation, communication. Those are the 4 fundamentals of any road test. So speed management, posted speed limit, flow of traffic, whichever is less, and get the vehicle up to the posted speed limit as quickly as possible. Space management, don't get near anything. You're less likely to strike something if you're not near anything, okay? So you need to stop at correct stopping positions at stop signed intersections, before the crosswalk or before the stop line, before the sidewalk or crosswalk line, and where the 2 roads meet if there isn't a sidewalk or a stop line. And 2 to 3 second following distance behind other traffic, and you need to stop in traffic so you can see the tires making clear contact with the pavement in front of you. You also need to observe correctly. You need to scan. You need to have a scanning pattern in place. You need to look far down the road, check your center mirror far down the road, check your instrument panel far down the road, both sides of the roadway, and then check your wing mirrors and just repeat that scanning pattern. Anytime that you reverse, you need to do a 360-degree scan, and you need to be looking out the back window for observation. And critical on a road test, you have to shoulder check 2 times every time you move the vehicle laterally or you turn. So you need to do that. And then finally, you need to communicate, and there's different ways that you can communicate for the purposes of a road test. Signals, lights, horn, but use your horn sparingly. You can hand gestures. Make sure you use all 5 fingers when you're doing hand gestures and communicating with other road users. Eye contact with other drivers. And then finally, the most important one is the position of your vehicle on the roadway. So those are the 4 fundamental components of a road test. Speed management, space management, observation, and communication. And at any road test, any class of license, anywhere in the world, those are the 4 fundamental components of any road test that you must have in place to be successful on that road test. Okay, there we go. Travel and gaming. There we go. Sebastian, it was Carol. I got a little too comfortable thinking I'm a pro driver. Yeah, unfortunately, Sebastian, that's what happens, is that we get comfortable behind the wheel and then we make a mistake. All right, there we go. Okay, Michael paid $60 for a road test and paid $60 for a practice driving test. But still, I know for some of you that's a lot of money, $60, but $60 is going to ensure that you, in fact, pass your road test first time. I always counsel you to do a practice driving test. All right, so talking about attitudes, the first attitude we're going to talk about is showing up. And actually, just before I get started on the attitudes and showing up, if you're watching on the replay, you like what you see here, consider subscribing as well. Give it a thumbs up and share the video. All of this helps out different smart drivers and helps to get the information out there and helps to achieve our goal of helping 100,000 drivers in the next year to pass their road test. All right, so showing up. The hardest part of any success story is showing up. And at the beginning, when you have lots of energy, it's easy to show up. It's easy to get there and do the work. But then that begins to wane after a while. I know for getting a license, for most of you, it's a short exercise. For most of you, it's less than 3 months. But if you're endeavoring on longer activities and longer challenges in your life, you have to show up. And even when you don't feel like showing up, you got to drag your carcass out of bed and you got to do the work. And I'll tell you an example of this. Last year, I was having some difficulty with tenants. I have a rental property, and I had tenants that were smoking in my unit. And so I evicted them. I didn't evict them. I gave them an opportunity to leave without being evicted. I simply said to them, give me notice and you can leave. Anyway, they took it as an eviction. They took umbrage. They took me to what's called the tenancy board here in British Columbia. They wanted their security deposit back, even though it cost me thousands of dollars to fix the apartment. I had to paint it and whatnot. But anyway, the first time I was ruled against, they said that I had to pay them back. I didn't pay them back. They took me back to the tenancy board, and then I showed up the second time. They did not show up because, I suspected there was a substance abuse problem there, or they were doing whatever, or forgot about it or whatnot. So essentially what happened was I showed up. The tenancy board simply ruled that because they didn't show up, that they ruled against them and they no longer had a claim for their deposit, their security deposit. So in life, sometimes success is just showing up. It's not even doing the work. It's just showing up. But if you really want to be successful, you're going to show up and you're going to do the work. You're going to set goals and you're going to work the plan. So that's an example. And especially if you want to get your license, you want to start a career as a truck or bus driver, you need to show up. You need to do the work. You need to have a plan in place, and you need to move forward, and you need to do something every day. You need to do a little bit of your plan every day. And this is what I say to drivers. If you want to get better at driving, you want to be a better driver, you need to practice, because the more you drive, the better a driver you are going to be. Okay? Carol, what is an approximate speed when turning left at an intersection? I feel either too slow or too fast. So Carol, unfortunately, that's a little bit like asking how long is a piece of string when you're doing a left-hand turn, because on bigger intersections you might get up to 25 to 35 kilometers an hour. On smaller intersections you're probably going to be doing between 15 and 20 kilometers an hour. It really depends on how big the intersection is for taking a left-hand turn. Now, what I would suggest to you, Carol, is to start in residential areas and do left turns, see how that's going, and then move up to more complex intersections, and you're going to be getting into higher speeds because the intersections are going to be getting bigger and bigger, and you're not going to be doing a sharp left-hand turn as you will be in residential areas. So those are some of the speeds. The other thing, Carol, I'll get Corey to put up the video for you on left-hand turns, and you'll be able to see the speedometer on there and follow along on some of the different intersections and their configurations and how fast I'm going when I'm doing those left-hand turns. All right? Okay, Penny, you're most welcome. And yes, so if you have any questions, by all means, again, if you're watching on the replay and you like what you see here, give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're working towards a license or a veteran driver working to be crash free, or you're working towards a CDL license and want to start a career as a truck or bus driver. Okay. Penny, in the driving test, my examiner said to me for parallel parking, then I put the right signal on, but she put the emergency light signal on. Is this necessary in the test when you parallel park? So your examiner put the four-way flashers on? No, you don't want to put your four-way flashers on, Penny. When you parallel park, you want to put your right signal on to indicate that you're parking, and then you put the vehicle in reverse immediately, and that activates the reverse lights, and the drivers behind you know that you're going to be reversing. So the right signal in combination with the reverse lights indicates to other traffic that you are in fact parallel parking. So that's what you need to do for the purposes of a road test. If you put your four-way flashers on, they may ding you, and I'll tell you a story about that, Penny. When I first started training here in Vernon, British Columbia, with the truck and trailer, I did the similar thing with the student. We had a right-hand turn off one of the secondary roads here up the hill, and it was out onto Highway 97, and it was down a hill, so you can imagine that the traffic's traveling at 5, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour faster than the posted speed limit. So we're coming out in a tractor trailer. So what I got the students to do to put the four-way flashers on and come around the corner. Well, the examiner dinged my student and said that he had to have the right light on, the right turn signal, and I was like, if it was me as a professional driver, I would put my four-way flashers on to indicate to other traffic that I was driving slower. But examiners are very particular about the sequence that they want put in place for you to be successful on a road test. What you do after you get your license is something different, but for the purposes of a road test, you need to do very specific. So it's right signal and reverse into reverse with reverse lights on. So blue bike, what do you do with blinkers on three-point turn? Okay, so blue bike, definitely have a look at the video on three-point turns here, because I show you how to signal in that. But essentially, for the purposes of a three-point turn, you pull over to the right curb first. So you're going to signal, you're going to mirror signal shoulder check, and you're going to pull over and you're going to stop. When you pull over to the right curb, then you're going to signal to the left. You're going to come across the roadway all the way to the curb, and then you're going to put your right signal back on because you're going to back up in the other direction. And then when you pull out again, you put your left signal on. So you have to signal 3 times. And some driving instructors will tell you that you don't, but it's better to signal more than less, because if you don't signal enough, the examiner is going to assign demerit points, and that may be the you know, the threshold where you're not successful on your test. So you always want to signal more than what is needed, and you need to communicate effectively, because as I said, communication is one of the fundamental components of a road test. And again, just to reiterate in terms of communication, lights, horn, hand gestures, appropriate hand gestures, eye contact, there's one more, and position of your vehicle on the roadway. There's one more I forgot, but I'll get to that. But anyway, that you need to communicate effectively, and especially in a 3-point turn. Okay, Hall Phase is here. Hey, Hall Phase, how's it going? Okay, do is not push the gas and just cover the brake. Yes. Okay, what is the average cost of a car that Canadians and Americans buy? Average cost. Well, that depends whether you're buying second-hand vehicles or whether you're buying new vehicles. I would suspect, Hall Phase, that a lot more people are buying second-hand vehicles than they are in the new vehicle market, especially in this day and age with the reliability of second-hand vehicles. You can pick up a second-hand vehicle for less than $5,000 that will last you probably 5 years, depending on what kind of vehicle that you purchase. My Honda, for example, I bought it 4 years ago for $3,500. It's got 300,000 K on it. It's still really reliable. So, yeah. Depends on whether you're talking the new vehicle market or you're talking the second-hand market. Okay, Blue Bike, thanks. Your vids have been so helpful to my daughter who tests Wednesday. Yes, excellent. I'm glad we can help you out. Let us definitely stop by Blue Bike and let us know if your daughter's successful. That'd be great. Okay, Anita. Hi there, Anita. How are you? Anita, remind me where you are in the world. Okay, Hall Phase, second-hand vehicles. Yeah, I don't know, Hall Phase. I would only be guessing to say that 60 to 70% of the market is second-hand vehicles, and what people are paying, because for a second-hand vehicle you can sort of pay anywhere between, you know, $2,500 and $30,000 or $40,000. So it kind of depends on where you are along that spectrum. All right. Harsh, if during a test someone is in front of me on a highway while merging and he is driving on 80 kilometers an hour, so I'll not be able to merge at 100 kilometers an hour, so exam will fail me in the test. Okay, so Harsh, I'm thinking that the posted speed limit is 100 kilometers an hour. So if somebody's driving 80, you simply want to get on the acceleration lane, get up to 100 kilometers an hour, and then merge in front of the person. That way, you're not going to be impeded by that person on the highway. Okay, Miss Fatima, how can I pass my computer test? I already read the book and I went to the MVA and I was unsuccessful. Okay, Miss Fatima, what I suggest to you is there are some practice driving test questions over at my website. Go over there and look for those as well. Find other practice driving test questions here on the internet. There are lots of those. Do not use those practice driving test questions as a measure of your ability. Rather, use them as a learning tool. Use them to identify the gaps in your knowledge. Once you identify the gaps in your knowledge, then go back to the driving manual and look up the areas that you need work on. And there's also a video here on how to pass the theory test, and Corey will get that up for you, and you can have a look at that, and that'll give you some more information. And this comes back to my tagline about pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer, right? And especially when it comes to multiple choice. And when you're doing multiple choice answers, know that there's 4 possible answers on a multiple choice question. 2 of the 4 can almost always be eliminated almost immediately. So it's going to be a choice of 2 of the answers, the possible answers, and it's often in the wording. So for example, if you're coming up to a 4-way stop and who has the right of way? So that's the question, and the potential answers are person on the right, first person to arrive, person in the intersection, largest vehicle. All right, so we know automatically that the largest vehicle does not have the right of way, so that eliminates that answer. Okay, 2 possible right answers right off the bat are first person to arrive, person on the right. Those 2 answers can sort of, they're the kind of the right answers because they are right. It's the first person to arrive or the person on the right has the right of way at a 4-way stop. And then the last answer is the person in the intersection. And obviously the best answer is the person in the intersection, because if there's a vehicle in the intersection, you're not going to go because that person has the right of way and you're going to give them the right of way. You're not going to go and potentially have a crash. So that's how you answer 4-way or multiple choice questions, and also know that you need to get used to the terminology of driving. You know, left center turning lanes, right-of-way, T intersections, painted islands, all those types of things. So all of this stuff is going to teach you that on a theory test. So that's how you pass it. That's how you work it to be successful on a theory test. Okay. Ahmed, good morning from India. I'm a great fan of yours. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ahmed. That's really great. I'm glad we can help you out for sure. Maxim, how do I keep myself focused during driving? I always find that I daydream, especially in slow traffic. If you're doing that, Maxim, what I would suggest to you is just make sure that you are managing the space around your vehicle. Because if you can manage the space around your vehicle, you can kind of, your attention can wane a little bit and you're not going to get into trouble. Because I think we're all guilty of that. I know that I'm guilty of that, especially in slow traffic. But again, yes, there are vehicles that are going to move into your space in front of you. But if you have space around your vehicle, you have room to sort of allow your attention to wane, and then you can come back to the driving task when it's imperative. But just know that space management, again, I truly believe and advocate that space management is the key for defensive driving. All right? Okay, Hall Phase campaign, how is it doing? Well, Hall Phase, I'll say that the 100K campaign, which is our goal to help 100,000 drivers pass the road test the next week, is off to a slow start. Yes, I'm giving my kids the evil look because they're sitting here making a lot of noise beside me. That's what I'm doing. All right, so yes, the 100K campaign is off to a slow start, but I've got another week on this other project that I'm working on, and then I'm going to be back sitting behind my desk and doing a lot of work. So once I get back here, we're really going to start pushing that. We're still going to start promoting it, so we're going to get going on the 100K campaign. So thanks for asking there, Hall Face. All right, is the person is already in acceleration lane and not going at 100 then? Oh, okay, Harsh, I know what you're asking me now. So if they're in the acceleration lane and they're not going 100, unfortunately, you simply need to just stay in behind them, maintain a good following distance, and then merge out onto the highway is what you need to do. All right, so that's what you need to do when you're on your road test. Ellie, how many mistakes are you allowed on a road test? Ellie, it's not mistakes, it's how many demerits are assigned you. And this varies a little bit depending on where you are in the world and taking your road test. I know that here in British Columbia, you're allowed 45 demerits on a road test before you're unsuccessful. And it varies a little bit, but it's sort of between that 40 and 60 demerits depending on where you are. So it's not what you do, but it's how many demerits you accumulate. For example, if you're unable to hold the vehicle centered in the lane and every time you sort of deviate to the left or to the right, they're going to assign 5 demerits, or you're not scanning your mirrors properly, then they're going to assign demerits for that. So it's just take note of how many you have to have. Good night, Colin. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for your questions and participating, and we'll definitely see you again. All the best, my friend. Hall Phase, how's the 100,000 campaign doing and how many people have joined? I ask again because I typed the last question wrong. No, that's okay, Hall Phase. I think we're still less than 20. Like I said, we're off to a slow start. And it kind of took a little bit to get all of the bugs worked out on the programming, but I think we're almost there. I've got a logo done up, and we're going to get all that going up, and like I said, we're going to get it going. Udawadi, hey there, I agree with you about showing up despite feeling I don't want to. I have practiced merging on the same highway until finally no honks at me yesterday. Thank you for the inspired words. Oh, you're most welcome, Udawadi. I'm glad that we can help out. That's really great. So, Ellie, I'm sorry I don't have a definitive answer for you for the road test, but just, focus on passing, do what you do, and move forward, and you're going to be great. Okay, so Penny, again, I really encourage you to book a practice driving test, and that way you're going to be successful on your test because the driving instructor is going to be able to go out and assess your driving and give you feedback on your driving. Okay? There we go. Head to work. We see to get to 100. Yeah, we're Hall Phase. We're going to get to 100,000. Okay, how to fight a traffic ticket. One of the ways, Hall Phase, that I would suggest is find yourself a paralegal. There are these paralegals. They're not lawyers, but they do go to court, and they will advocate on your behalf for a traffic ticket. Some years ago, when I was driving truck, And for those of you who are getting a CDL license, may or may not know, you have a driver's abstract, and all of your infractions are on that driver's abstract. And when you get a job, you have to give that to your employer because they want to see if you're speeding all the time, if you've got turning contrary to science and those types of things. So I got a speeding ticket. Well, I didn't want the speeding ticket to show up in my driver's abstract. So what I did was I went and hired a paralegal. It was these people who fight traffic tickets. They went to court for me, and all I had to do was pay the fine. So that was the agreement. I paid the fine. It didn't show up on my driver's abstract, and I moved forward. So that was one of the things that you can do. Okay, Soraya, best tip for obtaining my Class 1 learners theory part. Thank you. You're most welcome. I'm sorry, Soraya, was there a question there? But it doesn't seem to be. Okay, so Ellie's taking her road test on the 14th and going to be doing well. That's great. Okay, so showing up, work the plan, and the other thing that you can do is sort of psyching yourself out in terms of showing up, and this kind of works a little bit. It's like working out. If I'm going to do push-ups and I'm going to get strong and I'm going to go to the gym and those types of things, one of the things you can do is you can say to yourself, well, I'm just going to do one push-up. But you're not just going to do one push-up, obviously, because you're going to get down on the floor, you're going to do one push-up, and you're like, well, I'm down here now, I might as well do 10 or 20 or however how many push-ups that you do. So this is another way that you can motivate yourself to show up, is that I'm just going to show up for 5 minutes. It's the same thing every day when I answer comments. A lot of days, I just kind of drag myself over here and start answering comments. But once I get started, then it's easy for me to finish the task. In so many things that we do in life, it's getting started is the hardest thing. So that one push-up mentality, if I'm just going to do one push-up, I'm just going to answer one comment, I'm just going to get in the car and I'm just going to drive around the block. Well, when you drive around the block, you're like, well, I might as well go and see if I can practice my merging. When you're down doing one push-up, you're like, well, I'm down here doing one push-up, I might as well do 50 push-ups. Well, it's the same thing when I'm answering comments on my YouTube channel. Well, I answered one comment, I might as well answer the rest of them. And you just work through it and you make the time. So that one push-up mentality is oftentimes in our life, getting started is the hardest part. If we can get started, we can finish the task, we can do the work, we can get better at what we're doing because we're practicing every day. And it's the same thing with what I do in my live streams. I've gotten a lot better on my live streams. We're just past the 1 year mark on the live streams. When I first started doing my live streams, they were awful. You know, I didn't have good cameras, I didn't have good lighting, I didn't have good sound. And, you know, by saying the same thing over again and explaining and answering questions, I'm a lot better at answering questions and doing this. So it's a matter of showing up and doing it again and again. That will help you out. Ellie, learned parallel parking through my videos. That's really great. Hall phase, does your driving record affect your possibility to get a job? Hall phase, yes, it definitely does affect your ability to get a job. If you've got a lot of speeding tickets, say you have 3 speeding tickets in the last year, that is negative for an employer. An employer is going to have a hard time hiring you because not only that driver's abstract also goes to their insurance company because they have a fleet insurance, and the insurance company has access to all of that information. So you tend to be a high-risk driver, so it's going to be tougher for you to get a job if you've got a lot of driving infractions on your driver's abstract. And some places you have to pay for a driver's abstract. I know in the province of Ontario you have to pay for a driver's abstract, but here in British Columbia we don't have to pay for them. We just call ICBC and they'll just send you one. They'll email it to you or whatnot. So if you're unsure of what's on your driver's abstract, definitely have a look at it. Okay, Luke, take my road test in 9 days. I feel confident I will pass. Any suggestions? Luke, no, if you're feeling positive, just keep practicing what you're doing and you're going to be great on your test. Dorcas, that was helping me because my test is next week, so good luck on that. Good luck, Luke. Good luck, Dorcas. That's really great. Hamed, is that difficult to get a driving license in your country? It's not really that difficult, but you will be part of the GLP program, the graduated licensing program. Hamed, I don't know if you have previous experience or you have a license in another country. Depending on where you're from, you can get your license just changed over, or you may have to do a driver's test. It will depend on what you're doing. Don Campbell. Hi there, Don. How are you doing tonight? Gabriella, how can I improve my sense of direction? I'm always afraid because of that. I don't want to rely on GPS systems all the time. Thank you, anyone else without an internal compass. Gabriella, I would say about 80% of The driving population does not have an internal compass. One of the things I might suggest to you, Gabrielle, is just go out and get one of those compasses. You can buy them on Amazon, and you just put them on the dash, and they'll tell you whether you're going north, south, east, or west. So there you go. Hall phase, is there a way to clear those citations from your record? Unfortunately, no, Hall phase. They're on your record, I think, for 5 years. They stay on your driving abstract for a period of 5 years, so you can't get rid of them. There isn't a way to do that. Ashraf, hey Rick, thanks to you and your videos, I passed my Class 5 driving test on the first go. You are awesome. Thank you so much for that. And Ashraf, please head over to the Smart Drive Test website. Corey will put the link up here for you, and register with our 100,000K campaign. We're working to help 100,000 drivers get their license in the next year. And you can get us up over the 20 number, because I was just telling Hall phase that we're off to a bit of a slow start, but definitely register, and that would be great. And as well, you can also make a donation to the 100,000K campaign. A portion of the money is going to go to help drivers with disabilities to get equipment, to get training, those types of things. We're also going to give it to crash victims and anybody that may need driver training or help to get their license. So the program is definitely going to help people. So definitely go over and register. You don't have to donate if you don't want to, but it's greatly appreciated. Okay, so Kevin, hi there, Kevin, how are you? Dawn, quick question. What is the maximum gross vehicle weight you can tow with a Class 5 license? So, Dawn, the maximum amount of weight that you can haul is 4,600 kilograms is the maximum amount of weight that you can tow. So it's 10,000 pounds is the maximum weight that you can tow with a Class 5 license, so long as neither the truck or the towing unit nor the trailer have air brakes. So it's 4,600 kilograms or 10,000 pounds is the maximum that you can haul. Okay, Hall phase, is that why people run away from the police when they get pulled over? Hall phase, that could be a reason, but maybe not. Some of them, I suspect, they're doing other illegal activities if they're running away from the police. All right. Udawadi, flashing camera was flashing to me last week at the intersection. Do you know what is going to happen next? I'm in Maryland. Udawadi, I don't know in Maryland whether you have red light cameras or you have speed cameras. That could potentially be what that was. And if it is, I don't know what you were doing or where you were. There is a possibility that you may get a ticket in the mail. You'll know in a week or so, because they usually come within 10 days. So if you don't get a ticket within 10 days, it's likely that you're not going to get dinged, but you might. Kevin, can people with special needs get a license to drive? Hall face, yeah, just being funny. Kevin, yes, definitely people with disabilities and special needs can get a license, absolutely. If you do have a disability, Kevin, the best place to start is with your medical doctor. Go to your medical doctor, talk to him or her about your disability or your learning disability, and see what they have to say about that, okay? And that'll get you a place to start. Also, Kevin, where are you in the world? Are you in the States or are you in Canada, okay? Dawn, does that include the weight of the truck or just the towing trailer? No, the 10,000 pounds, the 4,600 kilograms, Dawn, is just the trailer. It's not the truck. Now, as you will probably be aware, Dawn, the truck is going to need to be something heavier than it's probably going to have to be a 2,500 or a 250 to pull that kind of weight, because most 1,500s, 150s are only going to pull about 7,500 pounds. So to haul 10,000 pounds, you're going to need something bigger than that. You might even need a 3,500 or a 350, depending on, you know, what kind of weight you're pulling and how often you're pulling it, where you're pulling it. If you're pulling it in the mountains, if you're pulling 10,000 pounds and you're in the mountains, I would really recommend that you have a 350 with a diesel or a 3,500 with a diesel in it. Okay. Hall phase, speeding cams are not that accurate. Yeah, it kind of depends where you are, Hall phase. Okay, Biggity Boys, when going through an intersection, can I just scan it once left to right, once for the road test? No, that's a good question, Biggity Boys. When you're going through an intersection, it's, just let me get this right. Yeah, it's left, right, left, because you want to scan back to the left again, because that's the first place that vehicles are going to come, and that's the first place you're going to get hit. So it's always left, right, left for those of us on the right, driving on the right side of the road, and it's opposite for those driving on the left side of the road. All right. So Kevin, you're in Texas. Okay, perfect. So you're in Kevin, you're in Texas. And if you're in Texas, yeah, the best place to start is to go and see your medical doctor. Talk to your medical doctor about it. See what you can do. And then oftentimes, once you get the advice from your medical doctor, then they can refer you on to another organization or refer you on to a driving school that has the abilities to help you with your disability and help you to earn a license. Okay? Gabriella, 80%. Thank you. You're most welcome. Kevin, okay. Hall phase, I'm 30 kilometers an hour, good speed for residential areas. No, Hall phase, 30 kilometers an hour for residential is probably a bit slow. You probably need to be closer over the 45, probably closer to the 50. Don, you're most welcome. I got a 5.9 diesel 3500. Yeah, so Don, if you're pulling 10,000 pounds, that's going to work out for you if you got a 3500 because you're in the 1 ton area. And you're going to be running through the mountains, so you're going to be hauling pretty heavy there. And that truck's going to work pretty hard pulling that kind of weight. And I'll just say this as well, Don, in British Columbia here, which I know you are, if you're hauling freight and you're over 10,000 pounds, you're going to need a heavy trailer endorsement. If you're hauling a recreational trailer, you're going to need a house trailer endorsement. Okay, so if you're over 10,000. Okay, so Biggity Boys, that's what I thought. Carol, how long have you been driving for? Carol, I started driving farm tractors when I was like 14. So I've been pretty, it's been a long time, and I've driven, so I got my license when I was 16, got my passenger vehicles, I think, and then by the time I was 24, I got my tractor trailer license. I drove truck in the States, and I moved to Australia for 5 years. I drove buses for Greyhound in Australia. So I've got a lot of experience driving, and I became a driving instructor in 1997. So yeah, so I've been instructing for a long time too. I drove out of the womb. Chronic, that's really funny. No, I didn't quite drive out of the womb. And just the other thing, Carol, my PhD, lots of people ask me about my PhD. I became so fascinated with driving and people's, and I didn't know it at the time, but what I now call social driving. And I had a heated argument with a truck driver some years ago in Ayr, Ontario. There's a truck stop there, and we were having a discussion about what the speed limit was on the 401, and he was advocated that it was the posted speed limit. It was 100 kilometers an hour. I said, no. I said, you can drive 118 kilometers an hour on the 401 all day long, and you will never get a speeding ticket. So it became the question that kind of drove me, pardon the pun, to do my graduate degree was, do people obey traffic laws because they're afraid of laws or they respect them? And that kind of took me on to do my PhD, where I actually looked at policing and law and how policing affects people's driving behaviors. And I just kept going back and back and back on roads, and finally ended up in the 18th century looking at the transition between horse-drawn traffic and motor cars. So I'm one of these people who's really passionate about driving, about the social experience of driving, about driving as a social activity and how people interact and the forces that motivate people, and predictable and unpredictable action. So I really enjoy this, and I really like having a YouTube channel, and I really like interacting with all of the smart drivers out there and answering their questions and helping them succeed, because by helping all of you succeed, I too am succeeding, and I'm helping you out, and we're all moving together and being better people. So that's my bigger vision. Utawati in Maryland, 25 mile an hour is the speed limit in residential areas. Yes. So 25 miles an hour, Utawati, is approximately 45 kilometers an hour here in Canada. So yeah, 25 is pretty close to 30. Biggity Boys, you should do a video on driving in residential areas. Actually, Biggity Boys, the practice driving test video that I have is mostly in residential areas. So definitely have a look at that and see how I'm driving in residential areas. That will help you out. Okay, 380 on the 401. Your governor ain't tuned up that high. 380, no. In a tractor trailer, it is definitely not. Some of the people on the 401 there, which is the main freeway that runs east-west through Ontario, Canada, from Detroit all the way up to Montreal, some of those vehicles are doing 140, 150 kilometers an hour, which is like 80, 90 miles an hour. Okay, Carol, that's fascinating. You can tell. Thanks for all your knowledge. You're most welcome, Carol. Anything we can do to help out. Corey, so ultimately, what was the answer you came to for that question? Actually, Corey, the answer I came to for that question about the posted speed limit is that if we're talking about speeding and definitions of speeding, speeding is not something that lends itself to an easy definition. One of the definitions is obviously driving faster than the posted speed limit, but there are 3 other definitions of speeding as well. So driving faster than the traffic flow, driving faster than me. So you're driving 100 kilometers an hour and somebody else drives 120, and you look at them and you go, oh, they're driving 120. And then the last definition of speeding is driving faster than the conditions of the roadway will allow. So for example, if it's snowing out and somebody's driving crazy fast, but they're still driving the posted speed limit, they're probably driving too fast for the conditions of the roadway. So speeding does not lend itself to an easy definition, and that's the conclusion that I came up with. And unfortunately, when you start doing graduate work and you start going to university and you start asking these big questions, oftentimes you end up with more questions than you do answers in the end, and that's essentially what happened. So there we go. Okay, Hall Face, once you do go to 20 kilometers an hour over the speed limit, you should not get a ticket. Okay, that didn't quite make sense. Unless you're in a quiet area. There we go. Okay. So, where are we at here? Oh, we're running up 6:56. Here we go. Okay, so I put this question out on the Facebook group, and I asked as well. I think I might have asked here. If I haven't asked on the YouTube channel, I'm definitely going to ask. What is an attitude that you should have when you're driving? And basically, one of the things that I advocate for drivers to stay safe is that know that other drivers are going to act unpredictably. They're going to speed. They're going to follow too close. They're not going to give the right of way. And I like to come back to the 3 top reasons for traffic crashes, which is speeding, following too close, failing to give the right of way. And I often say following too close and failing to give the right of way are the 2 top reasons for traffic crashes, not speeding. Because if you're speeding and you've got lots of space around your vehicle, then you're going to be fine. But failing to yield and following too close are definitely the reasons. So if you can maintain the attitude that you can have a good space buffer around your vehicle, you're going to pass a road test, you're going to stay safe, and you're going to remain crash free. So that's what I advocate for new drivers who've got a license and going out into the world and are learning how to drive and want to stay safe. So that's what you can do. All right. So we're going to leave it there. So essentially attitudes, and all of the smart drivers here have great attitudes. They're learning to pass a road test. They're learning to stay crash free, and they're being defensive drivers. And if you're new to the channel, if you're watching on the replay, definitely consider giving it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, to Smart Drive Test, and share the information around. All of that helps new drivers to earn their license and pass the road test and move on and become smart drivers. And if you passed your road test in the last week or recently, head over to the Smart Drive Test website. Corey will put the link up here for you, and register with the 100K campaign. It's our campaign to help 100,000 drivers in the next year pass the road test as well. All drivers in the month will go into a draw and be entered to win a $100 fuel card for that month. So as well, you can make donations, and a large percentage of that is going to help drivers with disabilities buy equipment and training and crash victims as well. So we're going to donate a good portion of the money. Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. And if you have any questions, I didn't answer your questions, leave me another question. I'll get back to you, and we'll help you out by answering those. And as I said, I try and get to those every day and pass and answer your questions. So congratulations everybody who's passed in the last little while on your road test. Good luck to you that have one come up, and we'll do what we can to help you out. So I'm Rick with Smart Drive Test. Thanks very much for watching. Good luck on your road test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.